I rise not solely to demonstrate that there is complete, broad ideological support for small and medium-sized enterprises if being given a larger share of the kind of procurement that we're talking about. I do also rise because I attach my name to Amendment 75B in the name of the Noble Lady Baroness Thornton and also the Noble Lady Baroness Hayman. I'm going to attempt not to repeat everything that's been said, but I do want to pick up something said by the Noble Lord Weagley, and I think it does tie into a way in which perhaps no one else has drawn attention to the fact that the previous group and this group are actually related. Aspects acknowledging that small and medium enterprises bring different qualities, and particularly quality. And the Noble Lord Weagley suggests that if we don't put in specific provisions about small and medium enterprises, it's inevitable that the big companies will dominate. Well, I would say if we don't put in provisions about social value and quality of services, and indeed, as the Noble Lady Baroness Thornton said, as is delivered under the UK Social Value Act, if we don't count for those things, that's actually possibly even more telling against small and medium-sized enterprises than the actual rules and the points that is addressed by these amendments. I do also, and I'm not particularly picking on the Noble Lord Aberdare here, I was going to say this before he spoke, but I am seeing from all sides of this committee a huge focus on productivity improvement and innovation. But I think we need to be careful about that terminology, and again this comes back to the previous group. A lot of what we're talking about here is provision of care, of caring services, of the type of provision that really does not lend itself to the same kind of measures that you can measure with how productively are you producing widgets. It may be that you have a nurse who's caring for a dying person. Maybe it's more productive, quote unquote, if that person is caring for 2 dying people instead at the same time. But we really have to ask ourselves a question of what, and I can see some head shaking happening here, but I think a lot of our measures of productivity have been that gross and that raw, and have failed to acknowledge the issues of quality and service that and the acknowledgement that you can't just simply make many of our elements of our service economy. If you're providing a rape crisis service to people in rape crisis, how do you make that more efficient? What does that actually mean? What does innovation mean in that context? And I think we sometimes fall into a widget, very narrowly economistic way of looking at these issues, and I think we need to look much more broadly. I'm now going to finish with something that the Noble Ladies opposite will, I think, agree with me, picking up a point from the Noble Lady Baroness Neville-Rolfe about the 30-day payment terms. And I think that's absolutely crucial in terms of, speaking as someone who used to, many years ago, work for a small independent business who supplied supermarkets on 120 days, which usually meant 150 days payment terms. And I would ask the Noble Lord, the Minister, if he's the one responding to this group, and if not now, perhaps it's something that we could look at in future in some forms of a letter, to make sure, and I think this is something crucial for small and medium enterprises, to look at 30 days or less should be part of the procurement process, to acknowledge when that needs to be written into the contract, to enable small and medium-sized enterprises to bid. That could be an important factor.